The number of adults living with diabetes worldwide will more than double by 2050.
Heart disease is the rampaging #1 killer in America.
Obesity is the biggest threat to public health.
Cachexia, sarcopenia, frailty.
The number of obese children and teens is now 10 times higher than it was 40 years ago.
What if I told you your body makes a compound that can prevent heart disease, build muscle, burn fat, improve cognition, improve your metabolic health, and maybe even prevent diabetes? And what if I told you we synthesized this compound in the 1930s and have almost 100 years of data to support its efficacy and safety? And then what if I told you that this compound that our bodies naturally make, this massively beneficial, very safe drug, is illegal to possess in all 50 states, and it's a Schedule III drug alongside of massively addictive and dangerous opioids. But this compound isn't an opioid. It isn't dangerous, it's testosterone. So how is it that this hormone that we all naturally produce that has all of these health benefits is legal? Well, I sat down with attorney Rick Collins to discuss this.
1988 at the Seoul Olympics, a Canadian sprinter by the name of Ben Johnson became the fastest man alive.
Ben Johnson with a start. Can Carl catch him? No! It's Ben Johnson! Ben Johnson does it again! Unbelievable!
And then tests positive for Winstrol.
The urine sample of Ben Johnson was found to contain the metabolites of a banned substance, namely stanozolol.
The sports world at that time just was turned upside down.
The nation is in shock tonight over the downfall of a Canadian hero.
And so the United States Congress started holding a bunch of hearings in the late 1980s to try to figure out, what are we going to do? How do we get steroids out of sports? And their solution was to make steroids a controlled substance and put it into the same law with heroin and cocaine and methamphetamine and all of the other traditional narcotics and drugs of abuse. The DEA, the FDA, the National Institute on Drug Abuse, the American Medical Association all sent representatives to testify and say to Congress, steroids are not like that. They don't belong in the same act with those traditional drugs of abuse and narcotics. There's got to be some other way to keep them out of sports, but we shouldn't take that step. They don't meet the criteria for addiction, dependency, and abuse. And certainly at that time, there was very, very little evidence of anything that would connect steroids to the sort of addictive qualities that other types of narcotics and controlled substances would meet.
Well, there's no problem. If you had a gun, shoot him in the head.
Congress decided to ignore all of the expert witnesses and forge ahead and make anabolic steroids, including testosterone, into a controlled substance, and that law went into effect in 1991.
Classifying a drug as a controlled substance is often the result of careful consideration of the drug's potential risks and benefits. With testosterone, that simply wasn't the case. The decision to make testosterone a classified substance was based solely on its misuse in sports, not because it was harmful or addictive. Does this make any sense? So there was a recent article published in The Atlantic talking about the amenities that are given to NBA basketball players when they're touring around and they're staying at hotels. Some of the amenities included things like fishing excursions, golf tours, manicurists, and barbers and salons. But there's one very specific rule for these athletes when they're doing any of these activities. It's that they're not allowed to consume any alcohol. So because these athletes have this rule, should we make it both a federal and a state law that no one should ever be able to consume alcohol again while fishing? Of course not. But that was the exact rationale that was used when making testosterone a controlled substance. We don't want athletes using these, so instead of just banning them within their respective sport, we decide to ban anyone, anywhere, from ever using these. And you might be thinking, no way, the government wouldn't do that. Testosterone must pose pretty serious health effects if they were going to schedule it. Well, let's look into that. When looking into the proposed negative effects of testosterone, the most commonly mentioned is heart disease. This study, published in 2023, was the first randomized controlled trial looking at the effects of testosterone on cardiovascular health. Yeah, you heard that right. The first randomized controlled trial looking at the effects of testosterone on cardiovascular health. Yet, they gave it a black box warning with literally no evidence to support the risk of cardiovascular disease. This study, called the TRAVERSE trial and published in 2023 in the New England Journal of Medicine, found that there was not an increased incidence of major adverse cardiac events in men using testosterone. Another meta-analysis in 2022 found no evidence that testosterone increased short-term to medium-term cardiovascular risks in men with hypogonadism. So does that mean there's no side effects? Of course not. When abused, when overdosed, it can definitely have negative health outcomes. But you know what else can? Water. Maybe it's because it's a hormone. Maybe there's something about a hormone that makes it riskier. Think again. Vitamin D. Vitamin D is not actually a vitamin, it's a hormone. But it's not dangerous, right? Wrong. Just like testosterone, when overdosed, it can have serious negative health outcomes, leading to issues like hypocalcemia and even kidney failure. But that's a silly comparison. Vitamin D isn't a sex hormone. Well, how about estrogen? The hormone testosterone is converted to within our bodies can be bought right over the counter without a prescription in cream form. Same goes for progesterone. DHEA and pregnenolone, potent neurosteroids, and precursors to testosterone can also be bought right over the counter. No questions asked, take as much as you'd like. What about hydrocortisone? We probably all have it in our medicine cabinet. Well, that's literally just another name for cortisol. Yes, the extremely powerful, potent hormone cortisol that with too much or too little of can literally kill you. Yep, go ahead, go buy that over the counter whenever you'd like. So I think it's safe to say that this entire "it's not safe" thing is just complete BS. Then why is it illegal? That's a really good question. Let's think about some of the things that testosterone does. Research has shown that men with higher levels of testosterone tend to earn more money, live in more affluent areas, and be more driven for success. It's well known that men with higher levels of testosterone tend to be independent thinkers, driven, and ambitious. Karl Marx once famously said, "Religion is the opiate of the masses." What did he mean? Well, Marx was discussing class disparity. He often talked about the ways in which the rich and powerful, known as the bourgeoisie, kept down the poor and oppressed, known as the proletariat. Marx believed that religion was just a means to keep people oppressed. With religion, our current situation doesn't feel so bad. We're promised a better life after this one. In fact, in Christianity, it's often stated that the poorer you are and the harder you have it, the easier it'll be to get into heaven. Matthew 19 verse 23 quotes Jesus saying that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Well, who would want to be rich with that logic? Maybe Marx was onto something, but maybe religion is no longer the opiate. Maybe it's dwindling testosterone levels. Think about it. Who's more likely to stay oppressed and blindly take orders? A man with low testosterone or a dominant, driven man with high levels of testosterone? You tell me. Maybe there's something more to these laws than just trying to keep sports fair. Maybe we're seeing even greater implications than we ever expected. To see another direct effect of low testosterone, check out this video.